And in this video tutorial, we'll be talking about variable scope in PHP. In PHP, we have 4 variable scopes, and it is very important that we understand how each of these variable scope is. We'll begin with the very first variable scope, which is the local variable. What is the local variable? The local variable are simply variables that can only be accessed within a function. So for you to understand this better, you'd have to see this in action. Look at this example on the screen. I created a function, say something, with one parameter, name. Within the function, I created a variable, says, with the words, says I love PHP. And then on the fifth line, what I asked the function to do is echo the name supplied to the function here, and then the says variable's content. So at this point, you might be wondering, where is the local variable? This variable was created inside this function, says. This variable cannot be accessed anywhere else than inside this function. If you try to access it from outside the function, you get an error. Therefore, we say this is a local variable. Same as this name that serves as an argument or a parameter to this function. It is also regarded to as a local variable. So, if for example, I want to run this function, all I need to do is call the function like this, semicolon, supply a name here. In this case, I will be supplying Joe. So I save this, come here, type localhost / the name of the file, and kaboom, you get the result. Joe says I love PHP. So let me just come down here this way and try to echo the variable says. I want to echo this variable, and I save this and I refresh this. You notice it says undefined variable, even though the variable was actually defined inside this function. So you see, now that is that about local variables in PHP. The next kind of variable we're talking about is global variable. Unlike the local variable, the global variable, even if created inside a function, can be accessed outside the function. How is that possible, you may ask? We'll go back to the code we just wrote. So at this point, we would like to say make says variable a global variable. So what do? All we need to do is say global. So we have the keyword global. Then you will supply the variable name that you want to make global. In this case, I want to make says global. So once this has been said about this, you can access it from anywhere within the code. So at this point, what we did here that raised an alarm here as an undefined variable will not be recognized. What? You don't believe me? Let me save this and refresh this. You notice says I love PHP just displayed here, and that is from here. And this Joe says I love PHP is actually from here. So you can see. Now a word of caution, please, except you really have to, except you have no choice than to, do not make your variable global. It can cause some unwanted errors. Now we'll move straight to the next kind of variable scope in PHP, which is the static variable. So what is a static variable? Think of a static variable as a local variable, but in this case, its value is static. So we are saying you can create a variable within a function. Anytime you choose to call the function back, the value of the variable remains the same. Alright, I know some of us might be confused right now. Let's see this in action. I will just clean this up and create a new function. I'm going to name the function test. For example, this function is not going to take any parameter. Then I will create within the function a variable called count. So I have created a variable called count and set its value to 1. Now, that being said and done, I want this variable to echo the value for count. I'm a bit lazy to type here, so I'll just copy and paste this. And once it has echoed this value, all I want it to do now is increase the value. So remember how to do that? Count plus plus. Now, that being said and done, we want to see this function in action. So what I'll just simply do is call the function test. Good. Everything looks good. Any errors? No. So what we just do here is come back to this place and refresh this, and we get a pass error. And that was because I did not have the $sign here. So I will save this and refresh this, and you notice we get the value 1. Now, what I want to really explain here is if I choose to call this variable again, if I choose to call this function again, like this and like this, let me call it 2 times, then I save this, I refresh the code, you notice we have a bunch of 1s. This means that each time I try to call the function back, it starts afresh and it sees that, oh, count is still 1, and so it still echoes the value 1. Count plus plus never takes effect. So how can we solve this problem? Static variable scope. So what do? In front of this variable, you just simply declare it as static, like this. Simple as that. So notice what happens now. I've declared this variable as static. I say output the variable and then increase. I call the function. I call the function again to do this same procedure. See what happens now. If I refresh the code, you notice that the numbers are actually increasing. This is because we have made this function static and we say whatever value you are currently holding, retain that value even if I am calling the function again. So it's as simple as that. Very simple. I hope you guys get the concept. And now we are moving to the fourth and last variable scope, which is the super global variables. Now these ones are special because PHP has already created them by default. We have quite a number of them and you'll be seeing them just now on the screen. So these are the super global variables we have in PHP. We will not be able to experiment with them just yet, as you would need to have some advanced knowledge in PHP to make use of them, but just take a very closer look at them. These are the super global variables we have in PHP. Thank you very much for watching this video tutorial. In the very next video tutorial, we'll be Boolean values. I'll see you next time.